Hello, and welcome to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. Here at the Freedom Challenge, we strive to do good by helping enslaved women and children to do more than you ever thought physically possible, and to do it together by connecting women with a heart for a hurting world. We hope you enjoy your time being informed and encouraged with host Tracy Doherty and our amazing guests. So let's get ready and join Tracy for this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Freedom Challenge Online. I am your host, Tracy Doherty, and I'm pretty thrilled to be with you after a very long pause. Today, we are kicking off the fourth season of the Freedom Challenge, and I'm pretty excited, thrilled actually, to have some of the OG Freedom Challenge ladies, minus Elaine, who's not with us. Elaine is our field specialist, but also some of the newer members to this team. Pretty fabulous ladies, as you can already see. So we have a lot going on this year. Already, if you haven't seen on our website, we have the Arizona Challenge. We have the NYC Challenge, which is the whole Manhattan Island. The Southern California, nope, not Southern California. I must want it to actually be in my area. As you know, I'm from Southern California, but the Mammoth Lakes California Challenge, and drumroll please, the Camino, the El Camino, which we're going from Portugal all the way to Spain. It's a big year, and we're happy to be back to share some about what's going on, what's in our heart in this season. We're going to talk a lot about that, but here it is. We are sharing about the heart of pilgrimage. Straight from the scripture, Psalms 84:5. Blessed are those whose strength is in you and whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means, being much more than an event, but a posture of the heart. So without further ado, and also just a reminder before we get there, I get ahead of myself. I'm like a kid in a candy shop, ready to come out of the gate and introduce this team. But if you're new to us, we are a movement of passionate women. We care deeply about oppressed and exploited women and children all over the world, those that would be vulnerable to human trafficking. And we use physical challenges to raise both funds and awareness and advocacy for Operation Mobilization projects around the world. And that those things focus on development, prevention, rescue, and restoration. So that's who we are. So if you're a new listener, welcome. If you're a Freedom Sister, yay, we are back. And we're kicking it off with the Freedom Challenge team. Yay, team. So I'm going to let each one of you introduce yourself, tell us where you're calling from, and what you do on the Freedom Challenge team.
I'll start us off. My name is Elise. I'm calling in from Atlanta. I am the administrative assistant for the Freedom Challenge team.
And I'm also calling in from Atlanta. My name is Brooklyn Edsel, and I'm the content and brand lead.
I am coming in from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I am the event manager for Freedom Challenge. I am Daria Holler.
Hi, my name is Ella. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas, and I am the data integration and communication lead for the Freedom Challenge.
And I am Ruth Willett, calling in from Atlanta, and I'm the prayer coordinator for the Freedom Challenge.
Ruth Willett, OG, original gal. And I'm pretty much everybody, as you can see. I'm already usually pretty hyper, but I am the high key hype team for these ladies. I'm so thrilled to work with each one of you. And, you know, I want you to share with me and the listeners, after you've been here for a while, what has this sisterhood of the Freedom Challenge done to impact you? And I'm talking about not just our team, because we work closely together, but the greater team. We just got back from a retreat, and many of us got to experience that. But share what's going on with the sisterhood of the Freedom Challenge and you.
Great. The Sisterhood of the Freedom Challenge has really just impacted me deeply during my time here. When I first started, I couldn't help but just be blown away at the group of ladies that I was working with. I remember telling my husband, I was like, I can't believe I get to go and spend a full week with just incredible women who are passionate about what they're doing. And then when I came and I spent that time with them, all of my joy was confirmed, because it is so inspiring to sit here with these people every single day. Not only the women that I'm here with today, but also the women who are participating in our challenges and are just involved with the Freedom Challenge. It's really easy to wake up every day just excited to see what God is going to do.
I love it, Ella. I remember that so profoundly. I feel like you got like hired and then like boom, came on a retreat and you just like plunged in, jumped in. I also remember you running the hill at the property we were at, and I was like, this is my kind of gal. She was like up early, running the hill. But you really did plunge, jump right in, and you are a joy to all of us. So glad you're here.
And I would say for me, the sisterhood impact, I've only been here for a couple months, and it was pretty much immediately, like as soon as I met you ladies, I felt so cared for, not only by the team, but then also by, like how you were saying, Tracy, we just got back from our ambassador retreat, and I just felt like I belonged, with these group of ladies in our community. There really is that sense of belonging, and just created like a safe space for me. And I would say it also increased my passion as well as I walk alongside, you guys, you ladies, the other passionate women, for the same cause.
Mm. We must have a pattern here, Brooklyn, because I think you too. It was on a Friday that you said yes to the Freedom Challenge, and on Monday you were driving in a car to a retreat, jumping in. So it says a lot about who you are. Seriously. I love it.
Yeah. For me, I love depth. I've always been someone who enjoys deep conversations. When I first encountered the Freedom Challenge in 2016, I was unaware at the time just how deep these women were willing to go after just a mile or so on trail. Sisters don't waste time in getting to know you better and sharing what they are passionate about. I'm continually blown away by how our bigger why is raising funds and awareness resonates so deeply in each of the women I meet. And surprisingly, not just because their hearts simply break for those we hike for, but also more and more women in the sisterhood have been impacted closely or personally by human trafficking in some way or another in their close circles. So I am continually impressed by the passion that is a part of the sisterhood, but also the depth in such a short period of time that we go. It's an opportunity to feel really vulnerable and really encouraged at the same time.
I love that, Daria. And something you're hiding is not only do you bring depth, but you bring fun. And hey, if you want to know about some of those secret fun things, you're going to have to come on a Freedom Challenge, because Daria, she brings the fun. Oh, there comes the creepy hand. More on those later, but I appreciate that about you. You are both of those things, and you bring both of those things to the sisterhood.
The creepy hand. I think it's a tiny hand.
I think it's a tiny, creepy hand.
So, yeah, I think for me, our team and the wider group of ladies, it's just such a beautiful space. And I feel like so often our team reflects what ends up happening within the ladies. And I just so enjoy that. Like this last season, as we were waiting for our amazing team to build up again, we just threw in and helped one another where we needed to help. We're constantly checking in personally as well as professionally, and just sending encouragement and little just ways to show that we're thinking of one another and loving one another. And that just moves on into every space where I think we get to impact. I mean, I have ladies, like you said, I'm an OG, so I've been doing this for a little while, since 2017, but I have ladies who reach out to me and just say, hey, I'm worshiping to a song and the prayer of that song is for you, or how can I be praying for you? Or when we come and do the hike, make sure you stay an extra day with me. They're just constantly wanting to include you in their life or encourage you or say, we know that you're praying for us, but how can we be praying for you? And I just think that it's a sisterhood that sees one another.
Love that.
Love that.
When I was introduced to Freedom Challenge, it's been about a little over 2 years now. I just looked at the job description alone to start with and said, when your job and your passions can align, it's such a beautiful thing. And then as I got off the deep end into the team, there's just this deep sense of belonging, and I'm echoing other people, but that belonging, that sense of being cared for, but also just being surrounded by women who are passionate about the same things you are. And being able to spend time with our team and the greater team of those women that we serve with, is just beautiful to be surrounded with people who are praying, who are calling and checking in on you, who are out there just going hard for this ministry, for this mission that we're pursuing. And it's just that heart and mission alignment. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. I love that, Elise. We were all just at a retreat where we got to hear a testimony that we didn't even hear about until this weekend, about a woman who had came to an event, first time event, was, just in her journey of faith, and had such a dynamic experience on that trail that 1 year later she received Christ, was baptized, and now is coming to another Freedom Challenge event. And there was a big part of that moved and revealed Jesus to her because of what she witnessed with the women and with the sisterhood in the Freedom Challenge, which is just, I don't know about you all, but that just was a thrill to tangibly see the efforts that happen on behalf of women, but also for the women that we don't even know and likely will never see. So that was pretty thrilling. And there's so many testimonies like that.
So many.
So I mentioned in the beginning that we are doing the Camino, which is one of the most rooted historical pilgrimages. And we're pretty excited about that. It's a month journey, if you can even believe it. I mean, I don't know, ladies, as I see women signing up for the 32-day, the full pilgrimage, 17 days, 10 days, 3 different options there. It's pretty thrilling to see that women's hearts are so connected to their own pilgrimage, but also coming symbolically on behalf of women that have their own journey to freedom. Our theme scripture is Psalm 84, and we'll hear more about that. And the theme itself is the heart of pilgrimage. So we'll really be digging in and leaning into that for this year and even into next year. What does that look like as more than just an event, but a way that your heart is postured? So I want to hear from each one of you on what pilgrimage, as we've been digging in and leaning in, is meaning to you, or even if you've ever been on a official pilgrimage.
I kind of feel like I've been on a pilgrimage my whole life. For me, I feel like it's a metaphor for kind of choosing like a path in life. And as I reflect on my story, I feel like God has really been with me the whole time, even when I had my back turned from him, just to be open with you guys. I was walking down a path just towards spiritual death, but all along he had his hand on me and was directing me back towards him. And now that I'm walking on his righteous path, I can feel my heart is postured towards growing closer to him. And really, honestly, now walking on the path that he's written for me, and just trusting in the destination he has, and all the stops along the way. And, for me, I feel like on a daily basis, this looks like me literally asking him, like, which way do I go? What decision do I make? And just knowing that he can guide me all along just as he has.
I love that, Brooklyn.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. So I've never been on an actual pilgrimage. I mean, this year, the Camino, it's just such an obvious one, isn't it? But I've never had that set apart time and journey to reference. So again, similar to Brooklyn, I think for me, my pilgrimage has been that focus, that intentional focus of where is God at work in all of my seasons? What am I going to put my focus on, my sight, my mind? That understanding, like the verse says, that we can look to him to be our strength and set our heart. So for me, it's definitely that's my understanding of pilgrimage, that he's in it all, the beginning, the middle, the end, of my journey, of our journeys. And when I set my gaze, when I posture my heart on that, it's amazing what I see, big and small. Like last year, I spent the year photographing hearts that I saw everywhere, from a shadow of the sun on the side of a building, creating a double heart, to a dog that I was dog sitting, peeing a heart on the ground, right? Like, it was just ridiculous. But I was seeing them everywhere because I was setting my attention on God, saying, I'm going to show you ways that I love you and I want you to pay attention to the small. So that was like my heart posture. I want to pilgrim through life, seeing what you see and hearing your version of my story, because when I begin to tell myself what I think my version of my story is, it's not always kind, but his is always kind. So for me, it's about walking with God and paying attention to the way he says it and sees it, and trying to train with intentionality that would become my go-to and my norm.
Yeah. And Ruth, I know you made a whole album
Yeah.
with all the places that you saw these hearts. You named a few, but there are so many more. And it's become sort of a book of remembrance of how God showed up for you in this pilgrimage called The Journey of Life.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, so I guess I would say I've been on a couple pilgrimages, but I think I also agree with Brooke in saying that life can be a pilgrimage. One of my favorite books is Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, and I love this book because it expresses such a vivid journey of one who simply wants nothing more than to follow Jesus, to stay on the path, and to encounter all that God has set in our path is never by accident. And such wonderful illustration that speaks into all different areas of life. To me, pilgrimage means journeying with intention and attention to all that has been brought to you each moment, and intentionally quieting oneself to reconnect and seek intention in how one may be used in their own life to help others and themselves. I've been on not on foot per se. This will be like my longest walking distance, because I am doing the 32-day. I'm going to announce that and say that out loud, which is a little intimidating, but on bike, yes, I have. I've ridden my bike cross country, my bicycle, from Seattle to New York City twice. And each time it took over 8 weeks of sitting, being patient, and there were many encounters of silence, community, contemplation, and opportunity while I was riding for others. Like we will be walking on the Camino de Santiago for others. I feel Christ is providing our team with an opportunity to connect and reconnect with him as we walk with intention and obedience. So I'm really excited.
Terry, I didn't know that your favorite book was Pilgrim's Progress.
One of, yeah. I think it's really amazing.
Yeah, when I was a little girl, that was one of the first books that my mom read to my sister and I when she had come to faith. And it was Christian and it was Little Pilgrim's Progress. So it was kind of like a simpler version of that. And forever, I remember Christian and Christina, from the land of destruction to the eternal city. And we would sneak and get little peeks of what was coming next. Yeah, it's a treasure, a Christian treasure, no doubt. It really highlights this idea. We read in 1 Peter about we are pilgrims, we're sojourners, we're strangers in this world, and that we don't want to get too cozy here, and we're on our way to the New Jerusalem. So, yeah, all those parallels. I love it.
Highly recommend.
Either Pilgrim's Progress or Little Pilgrim's Progress,
yes.
if you have little people. All right.
I'll echo everybody else here too. I have not been on an official pilgrimage. I'm sure there's parts of my life that have been that journey of meeting Jesus. But one of the things I think about most when I think about pilgrimage is the road to Emmaus in Luke, and just walking that road and literally meeting with Jesus and being able to commune with him and turn my heart towards him. And just in this season right now, I'm working through a discipleship course. And one of the things I'm learning about is how to take my heart and just sit in silence and solitude, and just the beauty of Jesus meeting us where we are and how we prefer to meet with him. And that's just a beautiful thing. So in my life pilgrimage, I'm learning to just sit and be still and hear him.
We learned a little bit about that, the pilgrim practices.
Yes.
That's one of them. Silence.
Hard.
That's so true. I think that silence is one of the hardest parts for me as well. I mean, what really impacts me about pilgrimage is just the way that God frames it throughout the entire course of Scripture. I mean, we see him taking his chosen people on these incredibly long and arduous journeys that require an extreme degree of commitment and trust in God. And it's so clear that those who are able to remain faithful and draw near to the Lord through these journeys are blessed to experience the beauty of God's presence. And this is really what pilgrimage means to me. It's a heart posture of eternity. And it's recognizing that at the end of the day, it's truly God's presence and holiness that reigned supreme. I've not been on a walking pilgrimage, but I did spend 2 months in Ecuador on a construction trip where we woke up every day and did construction for like 9-10 hours a day for 8 weeks straight. And what struck me about this time is that it was just the simplicity of the time that drew me so close to God. I think that's a characteristic of pilgrimages, where you're doing the same thing every day for long extended periods of time. And you're just kind of forced to sit there and ponder the reality of who he is. And I think that it's in that simplicity that he really met me.
There really is an invitation to all of us into understanding more about pilgrimage. And there's a theology in Scripture. We're going to be getting more into that throughout this next year and 2 years of where do we see this body, soul, spirit connection, that when we're engaging our bodies, we begin to see God a little bit. You mentioned, Elise, on the road to Emmaus, there was this walking and this unfolding of who God was in our life. There's such a parallel with the Freedom Challenge. And I feel really happy to dig more and more into this. And as you know, because all of us are working in this space together a lot, we like to say, do good, having a heart for enslaved women and children, which would be framed in biblical justice, and do more than you ever thought physically possible, which, it's a little bit of manufactured suffering we produce here at the Freedom Challenge, because we grow when we are in that tension of doing more than we thought physically possible and doing it together with others who have a heart for a hurting world. There's such a sweet spot in the combination of all of those that really represent this idea of pilgrimage. So my question for each of you is, why is this theme, the heart of pilgrimage, important to the Freedom Challenge in this particular season? Why do we think we're highlighting this? Why is God hiding like this? Maybe a sneak peek of what's in your heart, of why you think this is an important conversation for this season.
I mean, heart of pilgrimage, our theme, a pilgrimage is a journey, or for many, even potentially in various parts of life, a rite of passage. The El Camino de Santiago, people didn't just walk it to have fun. And at that time, it also was not a race of any kind, but it was a literal journey, a rite of passage for many, many people. And there are so many journeys that God has every person on. And some are much harder or dangerous than others. Not only are many journeys rugged, dangerous, and even heartbreaking in the face of, say, what we are pursuing in regards to human trafficking, but also there can be a hope that penetrates and surpasses the dark areas of journeys. To pilgrim and to take steps, whether in Portugal or on a regional challenge or even just outside my own front door, is a big deal because it means moving forward into what God has for each of us each day. To say yes to journey and to seek hope in God, who is bigger than all this, providing opportunity and power to bring light into the dark parts of others' journey, is inspiring and humbling to me. We are truly being called higher in what we're doing. And so to be able to see those things as a pilgrimage, but also a journey of responsibility, being able to be called higher into pursuing passions as our hearts break, as we feel called to help others. I think that is a very important area within this season of Freedom Challenge.
Well said.
When I look at our mission of wanting to see women and children set on a pathway to freedom, 1 million of them, I look at our mission, and literally in our mission is a pathway, a journey to seeing people freed. And so in the season, really drilling in and focusing on that mission as a pilgrimage to see these women and children freed and being able to meet Jesus themselves, in places where they may not have seen that hope. I think that's why Heart of Pilgrimage is so important right now, to sit there and say, hey, we are on a journey, they're on a journey, and we are meeting together for the end goal of seeing people freed and being able to meet face to face with Jesus themselves.
Love it.
So
I like how you tied that together, Elise. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I would say that the Heart of Pilgrimage is such a crucial theme for the Freedom Challenge because it's just such an integral part of what we're doing every single day. And just kind of echoing what both Daria and Elise said, it's that moment when you say yes to engaging with the issue of human trafficking that you're almost saying yes to being on a pilgrimage, because there's no way to understand what's going on in the world without that pull to actually do something about it. So that yes is an embarking on a pilgrimage. And that's just what I love about the Freedom Challenge. I mean, it creates such a beautiful and unique space for women to engage and be intentional with this issue. And I mean, with each step that women will be taking on the Camino and in our regional challenge, they are embarking on a commitment to faith and trust and hope in God in light of the darkness that exists. And I just feel like the theme of the Heart of Pilgrimage truly encapsulates the boldness that comes with saying yes.
Yeah, I agree, Ella, that, reflection of what we do on a daily basis and how it can really apply to everyone is why I think this theme is so important right now, the Freedom Challenge, because, the pilgrimage can be any type, right? It can be the physical task, the physical challenge, the physical walk. It can also be the emotional pilgrimage, right? It could even be the spiritual pilgrimage, like how I was explaining to you earlier, and of course, on this journey, on this path, there's going to be ups and downs. And I think everyone can kind of relate to that, right? In that physical, emotional, and spiritual space, because they've likely experienced something of sort that can relate to a pilgrimage. And I think setting the heart on the journey and trusting where God is leading us individually and as a community is just something to really keep our eyes on right now.
I actually love this question too. We're doing video for the first time and everyone's sitting so still and I'm like constantly moving and touching my face. And I'm like, okay. So movement is, sitting still or paying attention. It's something that you really have to, or I really have to focus intentionally on, because it doesn't always come naturally. Like Elise, you referenced the journey to Emmaus, and I was reading that the other day, and what struck me was as they were walking to Emmaus, they were telling Jesus what had happened. And it was only once Jesus they invited Jesus to actually tell them from his perspective what happened, that the peace came and the burning desire within their heart. And I think that's what pilgrimage does. And I love the intentionality of God in that, to go, okay, you tell me what you think, and then let me tell you what I think. Will you listen? And I think I love that about Freedom Challenge too. It's the space where that can get to happen. And what I love about this theme is it feels to me like it's building on the last few years of paying attention to what God has done, testifying, and then going, but we can't change the story. Freedom Challenge is live in freedom, because our God is living freedom. And I've experienced that, and we've all experienced that because we talk to one another about it. And that's his invitation. But it requires us to say, okay, I'm going to pay attention with sight in mind. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to look for the small ways, like I said, with the hearts. I'm also going to look for the big ways. But it's this reshaping of, like you've heard me say before, I find it really hard to think the small matters. But the whole thing of pilgrimage is it's just one step in front of another. The whole thing about Freedom Challenge is you're only going to get to where you're getting if it's one step in front of the other. And I believe there's this like scaffolding, this foundation being built that is, when I pay attention to the small, I can actually have faith for the big. And it's just like this beautiful theme that is like, okay, take my focus. Let me dig deeper into all the ways that you've done this for me personally, that you've done this for Freedom Challenge. That, you know, like taking photos of hearts. If somebody had told me that 4 years ago, I'd have been like, okay. Whereas it's actually allowed me to go, well, I think I might be so loved by God. I might be his favourite. I might be the most loved in any room. And of course, everyone can claim that because God's big enough to make that true about all of us. And it's because I went on a walk with a friend, saw about 20 hearts, because you see so many hearts in nature. And I was like, man, I've seen about 20 love hearts today on this walk. And she went, I've seen none. And I was like, wow, God, maybe I am just so loved everywhere I go. And it's the everyday. Will I let this guide my everyday? And Tracy, it's like when we're sitting in your living room, we're asking, how does pilgrimage relate to the everyday? Because like not everyone's going on the Camino, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. 32 days, Dairy, I mean, well done. Like that's quite a commitment. And we just threw out there 2 phrases that I wanted to read. Like, a pilgrimage is as much a heart posture as it is an event. And yes, we are all about going, but the reality is we don't have to go far to set our hearts on pilgrimage. And that's why I love this theme, because whenever I've been intentional, God just runs. Like a lady in my church says, you take 2 steps and then God will run the next 1,000.
Yeah. There is nothing more encouraging than when we see that God has been where we're at before us, because we see his fingerprints. And the way that has been captured for you over this last year is so beautiful. And all of us, there's an invitation into saying, look for the fingerprints of God where he's been as you go, that he's actually been there before you in the places that he's inviting you and calling you to go. And especially when those are more difficult places, more challenging places where it feels like a valley, or it feels shadowy.
Yeah.
Wow. There's nothing like a shadowy place and you see the heart in the shadow. And I'm looking forward to more of that with you ladies in our sisterhood. And then as that expands out and draws women from all places in the US and even abroad to join us on some of these really beautiful opportunities that are before us in 2024. Okay, here's the fun ender. And I'm going to end every podcast with this same question. So here, if you were going on a pilgrimage tomorrow, it's like up, you're going. What could you not leave home without?
I don't like this question because it makes me choose something. On a purely practical level, chapstick, because I have an addiction. On a more spiritual level, probably my journal.
Nice.
I would have to say I would bring snacks because your girl gets hangry. So that would be a priority for me.
Nice.
Okay, hear me out. Not only would I bring something like a tiny hand, but
tiny creepy hand
according to Tracy, but I would also bring this device, which is a nose flute. It's packable, small, and packs a lot of sound. I'm not going to play it right now, but you should come on the Camino or to any of our regional events because it will be there. There is always, in my book, there is always room for a dance party and bouts of joy and celebration. And both of these kinds of items generally tend to bring that and bring a little bit lighter of a sense of laughter and joy and excitement, maybe in the midst of a little bit harder areas. So
this is so funny that these are your number one items. Wow.
Rule number one, Tracy.
Don't give me the jacket. Give me the nose flute.
Rule number one, Tracy. Look good.
I think they bring an element of joy and of fear. I definitely would not bring a nose flute. Way more boring, maybe. I would bring a notepad and a pen. I think that would... I mean, maybe earbuds, because I love music. But I think a notepad and a pen would have to be my answer. That's really boring, I know, but I own it.
I think for me, I would have to bring a camera for sure. I kind of. Of course. You know me. I always have my camera around, just to capture the memories. To create that story visually. Something I just love doing. So I can't leave home without it.
All right, I am so boring. I'm bringing my Patagonia jacket because I feel like jackets are pretty essential. I mean, a spiritual jacket would be some sort of covering, or just a jacket. I'm bringing my jacket, folks. And at the end of the day, each one of you with your journal, nose flute, and camera are going to want to borrow my jacket if that's not what you brought. So... well, I love it. We got to spend this time together, share hearts, and Freedom Sisters and listeners, I hope this has brought you back into season 4 of the podcast. And until next time, I encourage you to do good by helping enslaved women and children. Do more than you ever thought physically possible, which quite possibly could be one of these challenges this year. And do it together, connecting with women like all of these women who have a heart for a hurting world. God bless you.
Thanks for listening to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. If you liked what you heard, join the fight to set women and children on a pathway to freedom across the globe. We are a proud ministry of Operation Mobilization USA and encourage you to learn more at thefreedomchallenge.com and omusa.org for how you can get involved. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at the FCUSA, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know what you think. We'll see you next time.